Hello, Mortimer here and welcome back to Akiba Rubinstein saga. Today I'm gonna show you one more game from 4th All-Russian Masters tournament in Sankt Petersburg in 1906. And Akiba Rubinstein went there with Gersalve, his friend from Łódź Chess Club, and Gersalve actually won this tournament while Akiba Rubinstein was third. And today I would like to show you the game where Akiba Rubinstein as white play against Benjamin Blumenfeld, who play as black, and ranking of Akiba Rubinstein at that time 2562 according to chess metrics, and very strange, but Benjamin Blumenfeld doesn't have the record in chess metrics, and he was a pretty strong player. As I told you, he was second in this tournament, and also he was inventor of Blumenfeld Gambit, if you are interested. So very strange that he doesn't exist, his record doesn't exist. I will write to actually chess metrics, maybe they can update that, but for now I can only estimate his strength for 2500. Just remember that he was the second during that tournament, and also in 1903 he won against Aaron Nimzowicz. So that's what we know about Mr. Blumenfeld. And without further ado, let's jump into the game. Rubinstein opened with d4, and if you would like to know what is Blumenfeld Gambit, it was not played in this game because Blumenfeld here is 21 years old, so he didn't invent it yet, he did it later. But if you are interested, Blumenfeld Gambit is played as black, and after knight on f6, c4, e6, we would have knight f3 and then c5, so not d5, but just c5, and then white can push, and then we have b5, sacrificing the pawn, and actually taking that pawn is not good for white, so usually it's not played. Bishop on g5 is the most popular, d takes on e6 is possible, so this is Blumenfeld Gambit. However, in this game we don't have Blumenfeld Gambit, we have d5, and knight f3 by Rubinstein, knight f6 and e3. So Rubinstein went for the call system, he waited with his c4, and the idea is to bring bishop on d3 first. And now we have bishop on f5 played by Blumenfeld. This is anti-Colle system, and bishop on d3 is still possible, and then bishop can take, and also queen can pick up back, or c takes on d5, even better because white would have very strong pawn center, which later can be pushed. So that's quite interesting. However, Rubinstein just plays c4, so nothing fancy. We have e6 by Blumenfeld and queen on b3. Knight on c3 is the most popular, but queen on b3, and Rubinstein already attacking b7 pawn, as the bishop defending is already on this diagonal. And here we have the trap, knight on c6. So Blumenfeld definitely know what to play, until now at least, and knight on c6. And now if white pick up b7, that's interesting, but bishop on b7 is a trap, and black would stand better now. Knight on b4 now is very strong move, so white won the pawn, but gonna lose probably the rook. If knight on a3 is played, then the game is very complicated, but actually white gonna lose the minor piece if they play correctly. If not, they gonna lose the queen. So it's interesting to show how it can happen, because many of us definitely has this situation where the poison pawn is taken and how to catch the queen. So this is one of the ways. a6 here. Now the pawn is defended by the knight, and now c5. So now knight is not defended by the bishop, so it's under attack. But now rook on b8 attacking and defending also the knight. So queen only move is queen on e7. All other squares are controlled by black. And now queen on c8 is very strong, and now black actually can catch the queen. So what to do now? The only move is actually c6. And now if rook on a8, then actually queen can go to b7. So what to do now? Rook on b6, and now we have another threat and attack the queen from this side. So knight on e5 can defend, but then we would have bishop on d6 attacking the knight. And then white doesn't have any more chances to do anything here, so bishop on a6, sacrificing the bishop, and that's the only way to save the queen. Now we would have rook on a6, queen on b7, and after exchanging just rook on b6, and black stands better because they are the minor piece up. So that would happen. And also after taking on b7 and playing knight on b4, white could play maybe a bit stronger or maybe more interesting. Don't defend the square on c2 and rather play c takes on d5. And now this is the threat, so quite interesting. So knight on c2 is of course possible to play. And now after king on d1, bishop on d6, making a space for the king. That would be the probably only good option for black. So after bishop on d6, bishop on b5 would come, king f8, and now position of black is better, and also this knight on c2 actually can pick up the rook probably for free, then can retreat back and continue the game. If white try to catch the bishop, then bishop can retreat to g6, and then after exchanging, then this rook would have the semi-open h file for playing. So all is good for black, and black would have the huge advantage and of course win the game. This is why after knight on c6 played by Blumenfeld, Rubinstein didn't take the b7 pawn, he played c5. And now Rubinstein actually can capture the b7 pawn because the knight can't go to b4 because don't have the support from the bishop, as this diagonal is blocked by the pawn on c5. So we have rook on b8, black has to defend, and now bishop on b5, attacking the knight. And now the only move, and it's still playable sometimes even in the 21st century, and it's quite good for black, the only move actually for black is knight on d7. However, Blumenfeld played bishop on e7, and this is the move which probably losing the game. Now white gonna get all the initiative and pick the winning chances. So we have knight on e5 now attacking the knight, and knight is also pinned, so there is nothing black can do about that. We have castle. Knight on d7 now could be played, but it doesn't change much the character of the game. The continuation is very much the same. So castle by Benjamin Blumenfeld, and now we have bishop takes on c6. B takes on c6 with attack on the queen. So queen can move actually on and attack c6, but Rubinstein just straight takes on c6 with his attack on the queen. So we have rook takes on b3, knight takes on d8, and now rook retreat to b8. Rubinstein play knight on c6, forking the rook, but also the bishop. Bishop is unprotected, so the rook has to go on e8. And now we have knight on c3, developing the piece. Now we have knight on d7, with the idea of pushing e5, as now e5 was not possible. And Rubinstein could take on a7, but he waits for this move e5 first. So he just played b4, always a good move to push the pawns, especially if you have advantage on the queen side. In this case, on the queen side, we have bishop on f6 supporting the move e5. And here we have a4 by Rubinstein. And here Blumenfeld probably should do something with this a7 pawn. Maybe move a6 would solve his problems, but he calculated something different. He wanted to open the center first. So e5 was played and Rubinstein takes on d5. We have bishop on e4. If e takes on d4 now, then knight on f6. Knight on f6 and then just knight on d4 solve all the problems. So that was not the intention of Blumenfeld. He played bishop on e4, now attacking these knights, and the knights has to do something. So the first knight, of course, with tempo f6, with check, we have g takes on f6, and the second knight jump to a7. Picking up pawn on a7, and here we have culmination of Blumenfeld's idea c6, and now the knight is actually trapped. So all this idea was to trap the knight. Of course, these squares are controlled by black. The problem is the calculation is not really precise because Rubinstein have f3, and now if bishop on d5 we would have e4. E takes on d4. Now the pawn is pinned, so can't be taken, but king f2 and everything works perfectly. Now bishop on c4, knight on c6, and white actually would have very strong connected pass pawns and easy win of the game. So after f3, rook a8 by Blumenfeld. He don't want to lose this c6 pawn. We have f takes on e4, rook takes on a7, and now d5. Rook d8, and here Rubinstein play the move after which one Benjamin Blumenfeld resigned the game, and he play castle. He just castle, and black just resigned. If c takes on d5, then e takes on d5, and of course 4 connected pass pawns, winning the game. And if rook on c8, trying to defend at least this pawn, then bishop on d2, one of the lines, of course almost everything winning here. But this is interesting because this bishop actually now can control b4. And king, if king moves closer to the action, for example f8, now this is the problem. D takes on c6, rook takes on c6, and now b5. And this pawn actually can't be taken because of this pin. So rook would have to go on c8. Now we would have just c6, knight b6, and then bishop on b4. Anyway, king e8 coming closer, but now a5, so harassing the knight, knight c4, and here rook f on c1, still harassing the knight. Knight can take on e3, but it doesn't matter, and even the knight is far now from the action. So b6, rook on e7. If rook on a8, then we would have b7, rook a7, but then just exchanging, and b7 is winning the game. Rook b8, c7, and of course that's enough. Don't need to show more how to win this game. And Blumenfeld, of course, knew about that. This is why when the castle happened, then he just resigned the game. And I promise you the story, I'm not gonna tell you the full story, but in the round before the last one, Rubinstein play important game from the Blumenfeld's point of view. Because Blumenfeld was interested Rubinstein not get all the points, full 2 points in the last 2 games, because his position was very shaky and he was not sure he gonna be the second, and he started to make a lot of noise as only Rubinstein played the game. And Rubinstein started to make weak moves and lost that game. He appealed to the referee. A referee said, okay, let's start the game not from the beginning but from the time control, and Rubinstein won that game, but he said, okay, I don't want to win in that fashion, so let's make a draw. And this is why Rubinstein is on the 3rd place and Blumenfeld on the 2nd place in this tournament. However, as you see, Rubinstein was very fair play player, and Blumenfeld did everything to just get the good results in this tournament. That's all for today, and if you like this video, press like. If you don't like for some reason, press unlike. Leave the comment what you think about Akiba, Rubinstein, fair play, attitude, and of course press subscribe, press the bell button if you don't want to miss another parts of Rubinstein saga. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.